What's going on, everybody? I'm going to show you how I turn this into this with a quick time lapse. So this is where we started in Photoshop. That original image was that big, and then I kind of expanded it. Doing the standard stuff that I do to expand it. And I started with the eyes. Now, I am a little bit deep into this already. This is something that I was doing on the Create With Me on Wednesday. I had done a little bit of work before Brian jumped on, and then I was working while he was sharing his screen. But overall, you're going to get to see the idea. So right here, I'm just showing what my layers were and kind of what they were doing. So here I have a color fill layer that I filled with pink, masking it out. I have a curves adjustment layer and a hue saturation layer that's underneath. It's at the very beginning. So I have these two different layers. I always like to build things up, and I'll have something like light in there for that secondary layer, the one that says color fill 1. And then the one above it is slightly different. It's just a slightly different pink. And then that one's on linear light. So linear light has a tendency to really amplify the color. And so just playing around with those. And I mean, you guys know how much I like light. And the eyes, man. The eyes. So here I am just kind of adding more darkness and contrast. I'm doing it manually. And this is a character that I developed in Stable Diffusion, which I have a little bit of a story for that I will share in my Patreon once it's done. Yeah, so here you see that line right there that I'm highlighting with my mouse. That is something that I didn't notice when I did the generative fill. Right there is the generative fill layer. So the white part, there's the original photo. And then I did a generative fill layer. And what I didn't do was when you do a generative fill, turn off the mask. You can see me turning it on and off over there. So you turn off the mask before you merge your layer, and you'll get a much more seamless image. So you'll see me do that in just a second. So I'm just organizing my stuff so you can see them turning on and off the adjustment layers. I put everything into a nice folder. It's way easier when you stay organized with this stuff. So I just deleted the first merged, and I'm creating a second merge there. And as long as you have everything that's an adjustment layer, nothing is destructive. And so you can always go back to this stuff and change it very easy. Nothing is baked in when it's an adjustment layer. So if you guys don't know how to use adjustment layers, really take some time. And I'm always a proponent of that, and join us on the Create With Me sessions, because if you guys have questions, I will answer them live using masking, adjustment layers with masking. That's really the power, like the superpower of Photoshop. It doesn't have to be Photoshop either. Procreate does this if you like using an iPad. There's quite a few programs that actually do use layers and masking. It's not strictly for Photoshop, but just if you guys have that capability, really play with it and use it. So already you can see that my curves adjustment layer, I'm doing some dodging and burning here. And so I wanted to add quite a bit of brightness, but then color to that brightness. So you see there's a hue saturation layer at the bottom there. That's part of the full image group. And so I added a bit more of a yellowy reddish tone. And so I'm masking it. I enhanced that with the dodge layer, and I'm just masking that in. And now I'm also the one that you see right now that says burn. That's a curves adjustment layer that I have set to overlay. And so then that way, yeah, you can see it might seem subtle as you're doing it, but when you turn it on and off, it makes a big difference, especially towards the end. And so here I'm going to play with the merged copy, and I'm actually going to create a healing layer, what I call a healing layer. So I'll just make a new layer, and then I'll do any healing work that I have to do. Clone stamp tool, the healing brush tool, basically anything that's just kind of like fixing cracks or spots. I'll do that on its own separate layer, and that makes it a lot easier to kind of turn on and turn off and erase things. That's about the only place that I will use an eraser versus a mask, is on my own healing layer. And so I've tried a couple different things here. I did use the spot removal tool, and then I was showing how to do some slight variation with the stamp tool, the clone stamp tool. You want to feather that in once you get to a certain point. You want to bring down your flow and maybe even your opacity really low, and just feather it in. I love this so much. She looks sick. Absolutely sick. Love it. So one of the things I'm doing here is I'm just going to do a normal layer, just a normal solid color of black. And then I'm going to paint that in. And that's going to help me enhance the darkness more and just add an overarching kind of layer of darkness. It's not multiplying. It's not overlaying. It's just black. And then I can change the transparency, or you could always make it overlay if you wanted to. But I have a tendency to like to do that to kind of enhance the darkness that I have. Because sometimes when you have a multiply layer or an overlay layer, so some sort of darkness, it enhances the layers underneath, the darkness of it. But it might not do exactly what you want. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking, with the eyes, if you look at the eyes before you add color to them, there's some shadow over the eyes that the eyelids cast. And so that's right there what I was doing, is I was trying to make sure that I was matching that shadow from the eyelid cast. And so when you see me pull back like that a lot, it's because it's really important to look at the overall image. What does it look like not zoomed in? When you do a lot of work zoomed in, you get really into the weeds. You'll get caught doing a lot of things that don't make a big difference whatsoever, because you're in the minutia, you're in the pixel, and nobody's ever going to notice that, and you're going to agonize over these small details. And that's fine if you want to do that. I mean, you see me here, I'm using the brush tool. There's so many faster ways to do a lot of this stuff in Photoshop, but to me, this is my meditation. This is the art form. I love doing this. And so do you enjoy it however you want to enjoy it. But I always suggest zooming out at some point so you don't go too far down into the weeds and get lost in it. So I'm just doing some final little touch-ups here. Just to kind of, I didn't want that to go away entirely, and I'm trying to like let it mask in a little bit, not just be super clean line. And there she is. God, I love this image so much. This is going to be available over on my Patreon. My paid patrons get this for free. I am going to add this to the store, which I haven't developed yet, but it will be available relatively soon. And also this video, if you don't want to hear my voice and you just want to watch and listen to the music, then this will be over there on my Patreon. Until next time, be good to each other.